Hey, class. So I'm going to talk some more about Lend-Lease to the Soviet Union. I don't have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not in these podcasts going rah rah, the U.S. rocks, Russia sucks. Uh, we're number one, anything of the sort. I have incredible admiration for the fighting spirit of the people of the Soviet Union during World War II, and that essentially was the key factor in the defeat of the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union. And we were getting a taste of that over this weekend and last week in the Unwomanly Face of War book. Just incredible. But nonetheless, the United States, through Lend-Lease, did play a very significant role in the Russian ability to defeat the Nazis. And the big picture here is that what the United States offered the Russian military was mobility, um, with locomotives, with trucks, with communications, with wireless radios, 32,000 radios that we sent the Soviet Union. Basically, by the time the Soviet Union begins its counteroffensive against the Germans, its major counteroffensive in early 1943, and they've been getting Lend-Lease ever since pretty much since the invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941. What we offered the Soviet Union was mobility. And we did offer the Soviet Union, we also filled in the gaps in the Soviet industry. So let me talk about this for a second. Again, don't get all fussed about the numbers, but just get a sense of the scale here. So during the war, the US provided the Soviet Union with 400,000 Jeeps and trucks, 400,000 Jeeps and trucks, very significant number. A lot of these trucks were Studebaker trucks. We don't talk about Studebaker today. It went under in the 1950s, but it was a major automobile manufacturer back in the day. Its headquarters was South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame is. You can go to a museum there today and see evidence of the Studebakers that fought in the Eastern Front. But so trucks, Jeeps, 14,000 airplanes, 8,000 tractors, very necessary in an agriculture society that needs to feed itself. 13,000 tanks. By the end of the war, the US was making tanks that were good enough for the Soviets to accept. 1.5 million blankets, 15 million pairs of army boots. That's really almost a pair of boots for almost every Soviet soldier, or a significant amount of Soviet soldiers. Boots are friggin' important. If you've ever been in a situation where you didn't have good boots and needed them, you would realize how important they are. And of course, there's a story in the first week's reading of Unwomanly Face of War about one of the women that she interviews. And she talks about having boots that were too big for her, but they were very, very much part. The boots coming from the USA are very, very much part of the Soviet Army and the ability of the Soviet Army just to basically march. There was also millions of tons of food. Now, in a meeting with Roosevelt, Stalin got up and made a toast, and it was pretty remarkable what he said. This was towards the end of the war. He said, "I want to tell you what, from the Russian point of view, the president and the United States have done for victory in this war." Again, these are Stalin's words. "The most important things in this war are the machines. The United States is a country of machines. Without the machines we've received through Lend-Lease, we would have lost the war." I love that line. The United States is a country of machines. Khrushchev, who was one of the Soviet leaders during the 1960s, he was the head of the Soviet Union during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was also a major political figure as a younger man during World War II. After he was deposed in the 1960s, he wrote his memoir, and he talked about World War II. And he wrote, And again, this was someone who was a leader of the Soviet Union in the 1950s and 60s before being kicked out of office. He said, if the United States had not helped us, we would not have won the war. One-on-one against Hitler's Germany, we would have not withstood its onslaught, and we would have lost the war. No one talks about this officially, and Stalin never, I think, left any written traces of his opinion. But I can say that he expressed this view several times in conversation to me. I guess Khrushchev hadn't known that Stalin had made this toast at the conference. But nonetheless, even without Stalin's words, Khrushchev's words are significant because he was very close to Stalin. And what he's saying is that Russia would not have won the war without the US, and Stalin acknowledged that a number of times.